tonight's presentation is being recorded. So if you have anybody that is unable to attend tonight that is interested in the information, we will be able to share this with them after.
Susie Kuntz, join the meeting.
I'm getting voice announcements. So anyway, if you know of anybody that was unable to attend that wanted to be here, we will have that available. I'm assuming we'll probably just post it on the website, so that way it's accessible to anybody at any time. Oops. All right, we got quite a bit of ground to cover, so we are going to get rolling. Now, keep in mind, I'm not going to necessarily be able to see if you're raising your hands, so if you have a question, don't hesitate to just say, hey, Sarah, don't worry about being rude or whatever, because I want you to ask questions. I want this to be interactive. So if you have anything at all that you want to ask me about as we're going through this, please don't hesitate. All right. Well, welcome to our NATRC Ride Management Power Session. So, a knowledgeable ride manager is a good ride manager. And the thing is, we've always got stuff changing, in our sport, and some of our protocols change. But we also have a lot of newer managers. And so there's a lot of little kind of weird, sometimes tidbits that often aren't known or aren't found out till after the fact. And so I'm hoping that maybe by doing this, we're going to cover some of those things that I tend to find. I'm covering a lot of things that I've seen as trends over the years. And hopefully we can kind of get ahead of some of that by doing this presentation. And then hopefully if you have questions that we can take care of, that will be even better, because your questions also help other people because they may have the same question. Maybe they don't even know they had the same question until you ask it. So don't be afraid to ask the questions. All right. We're going to dive right into administrative forms. I promise I'm going to try to not make this super dry and boring because nobody likes that. Not even me. So bear with me. Oh, are my clickers not? Oh, there we go. All right. Forms. Always make sure that you guys are taking the most current form from the website. I realize that it's easier and more convenient to take your already previously filled out form and just update the information and then send that. But we do update our forms quite frequently with different things. Sometimes, we find out that there was information missing or something, we needed to add something to collect other information. We do adjust those forms. So as I stated here, our forms change just like your clothes. So it's really important that you are going to the website and you are sourcing our most current form before you submit it. So our sanction form, progress reports, all of that. And everything on our website will be the most current. Fill out these forms completely. Read them carefully. I get so many incomplete sanction forms and progress reports. So please don't leave anything blank unless there is absolutely nothing to put there. Or if you have a question about it, ask me before you submit it. I'm happy to answer your questions because we'd rather get these questions than be coming after you trying to hunt down your information. It's a lot easier if you ask up front if you have an issue or a question. We'd much rather help you up front rather than trying to decipher stuff later. But we do use this information, and this information does matter. So if it seems obsolete to you, it is not. I promise you. That's why it's on the form. It's information that we need administratively to do our jobs. 6-week progress reports. This is probably one of the more important documents. Without this, you're not going to get your ride packet, which means you don't get scorecards. You're not going to get your processing information. You're not going to get those rule books that you need for your rules interpreter and for your manager. So unless there's some kind of a protocol established in your region that helps ride managers with their timelines, there's not going to be anybody to remind you that this is due. And as much as I would love to be able to remind each and every one of you, hey, it's time for your 6-week ride report, I support too many rides to be able to notice if I have not received yours. So I can't tell you how many times I haven't gotten a 6-week ride report. And then I have a ride manager or a secretary that's like, our ride is 2 weeks away and we don't have scorecards. And I'm like, so then of course I panic because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, did I miss something? Did I forget something? So then I'm quickly going back and looking and double checking to see if I had a 6-week ride report. And, 9 times out of 10, I don't. So guess what? Yeah, I need that report. That's important. You won't get scorecards without them. This is probably the most recycled form that I get. I actually got one that had a date down in the bottom corner because the ride manager didn't update it. That had 2017. And I'll tell you, that's a really old form. And we've done a lot of updating since that time. So I'm like, yeah, go get the new form and redo this because I can't, it's not going to fly. Because they also were offering an LED ride and that old progress report did not contain LED information. So no, that's not going to work. So take your time. And because one thing I'm finding is that there's just a lot of missing information. One of the biggest things is with leisure division. So if there's a joint ride that has a full type A ride plus the LED ride, I'm finding that some of the leisure division stuff is getting left off. And on that progress report, there's 2 separate lines for 2 different card types. So for your A ride or your open novice CP, there's a line for those cards, how many you think you're going to need for that. There's a separate line for your leisure division cards. So please make sure that you're paying attention to that because I get a lot of those that come blank. And then guess what? I'm reaching out to you and saying, hey, any idea how many scorecards you need? Kind of need to know that because it helps me gauge what you're doing. I guess, and on that same note, please make sure you're asking for a realistic number of cards. And when I say that, we kind of know, if you're a brand new ride manager, you may not have that same knowledge. But if you're an existing ride manager that has either managed this same ride or managed it previously, or it's an existing ride that you have taken over, we can always look at data and kind of know what your average ridership is for that ride. If your average ridership for that ride is 30 riders, don't ask for 50 to 60 scorecards. That doesn't make sense. I might question that and I might bring that up to you and say, are you expecting this many riders? Are your entries, are they on a trajectory that are telling you that you're going to end up with this many riders? Because otherwise you're just ending up with a scorecard overage that you're going to have to send back to me anyway. So the reality is try to ask for a realistic number of scorecards. Double check your mileage and timing. So if you're holding B rides for open, novice, and CP, both Saturday and Sunday, each day has to meet the minimum mileage requirements. I've actually had probably at least 3 progress reports already this year where they had a B2, so a Sunday ride sanctioned for open, novice, CP, or just novice and CP, whatnot. But they were under the minimum mileage. So they were at 13 miles or 14 miles for Sunday. Guess what? No fly. It's got to be at least 15 miles if you're doing an individual B ride. Now, if that were built into an A ride, as long as the minimum total mileage for that weekend meets the minimum for the A ride, you're fine. If that Sunday mileage is 13 or 14, it just can't be if you have a B2 and it's sanctioned separately, if that makes sense. Are there any questions about that? Because that gets a little confusing. It'd be the same thing, I guess, if you had a B1 and then you tried to short the mileage on Saturday. Either way, the mileage has to meet the minimum daily mileage requirement if you are sanctioned for a B1 or B2 open novice CP. So keep that in mind. I've had more, like I said, at least 3 rides so far that I've already had to have them correct that and say, look, I don't know if you meant to do this. I hope your trail will accommodate the mileage you need to have to make that correct. So just check that. Make sure you're checking those. Check the number of PNRs. Make sure, look at lunchtime. If your minimum elapsed time is exceeding 6 hours, a lunch is required.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure that you're including all of your key personnel as requested on this document. That includes any apprentice judges. We've had a few rides that have had apprentice judges, and that was not listed on their progress report. We need that information because we do track that. And granted, like Lori and Jamie and Tamara, those guys are on top of those apprentices and stuff, but we need that information on the documentation as well. It's all part of that ride record. So make sure that if you have an apprentice judge at your ride, that's getting filled out on your paperwork. Ride insurance. Don't skip this part. I can't tell you how many times I'm getting 6-week ride reports and that is left blank. So honestly, in all honesty, you should have applied for your insurance prior to submitting your 6-week ride report in an ideal world. I realize that we don't all live in an ideal world. Stuff happens. That is the target. Try to have your insurance, either at least applied for or obtained prior to your 6-week ride report. I realize it doesn't always happen. But make sure to at least indicate the status of the insurance on the form, or we're going to be asking you because it is required for your ride. We are automatically, NATRC is an automatic insured, so you guys don't need to send us your certificates. When you're issued your certificate, I get a certificate. So I automatically have that information. So when you get yours, I get mine. And then we store all of that information in a folder. So we always have access to it. So as long as if you've got a certification, then you can guarantee that I have it too. You don't need to notify me, but just make sure that you're putting it on your 6-week ride report. That yes, you have it, and then the date that you received it. That's all included on your form. Sanction changes. Good old Dolly. So that's a broad topic, but the basic of your sanction itself includes the when, the where, the what, and the who of your ride. And that leads to the approval of all of those things. And that's when you get the lovely letter from myself or Kathy saying, yay, your ride's approved. Let's rock and roll. Good job. Let's do this. Come on. Life happens. How many of you have been to a ride where, oh man, stuff's falling apart real fast. Weather's turning, and then suddenly, great, you're finding out, maybe it's not the weather, but maybe something in your life's changed and you need to change when that ride's happening. Maybe you need to adjust the date. Maybe you need to change who's managing the ride, or change who your secretary is, or who your trail master is, or whatever. You need to make sure that if any of that stuff that was already previously sanctioned and approved, you need to make sure that you contact myself or Kathy, depending on whoever handled your sanction, and we will help you with that. I had to include that, while Dolly's singing you a song of empowerment and facing the struggle, because for those of you that have already managed rides, you know what that struggle can sometimes be. But like I said, it's not a problem. It's a simple email to whoever sends your sanction forms, sends your sanction approval, and we will help you. If you need to change anybody, just let us know. This also applies to adding or removing any divisions or day offerings. You must request a formal sanction change. So if, say, you want to, maybe you decided you want to add a B2 ride that you didn't already have on your sanction, no problem. Let us know, and we will update that. We'll update your sanction. We will update the website, and then you're able to add that to RMS as an option. but it does have to be approved and sanctioned as such. We had a kind of a bigger problem last year with this, where rides were sanctioned with certain, maybe they were sanctioned as a type A ride, and then maybe a B1 with only CP or something, or there was only a B1. And then all of a sudden we find out that an RMS, a B2 is added and a B2 ride happened for maybe one or two riders, but it was never sanctioned. So that can't happen. I mean, technically that ride didn't exist. That B2 ride technically didn't exist per the sanction. So it does need to be pre-approved if you want to add or change anything. But my type A ride, I had to share this photo because I don't know, were any of you at the Oklahoma Land Run in 2013 when we got snow? And it was really cold and nasty, so they of course us Region 6ers were like, let's ride. Why would we call this why did we turn this into a B ride? But we did.
Sarah.
Yes.
Sarah, this is Roger Garlitz.
Hi, Roger.
I have a question. If a ride is sanctioned as an A ride and Saturday goes off and everything's okay, but then Sunday there's a horrific thunder rainstorm and it wipes out the trails, can that A ride be changed to a B ride? If could the Saturday be changed to a B ride for all the riders?
Yep, and we're gonna talk about that right now. Okay. You're just ahead of the game, Roger.
Sorry.
That's all right. You're just on it tonight. So that was an example of a ride that got converted from an A ride to a B ride right there. It's 11 years ago already. Can't believe it. So, no management team likes to be faced with situations like this. The dreaded conversion of a type A ride to a type B ride. But obviously, safety is paramount in our sport, and we want to make sure that we're protecting our horses and our riders to the best of our ability. And if the trails aren't safe and the weather situation is not safe, then we have to make those calls. So when this happens, again, you're able to reach out to Kathy or I. We want to be able to help you, especially if you have questions on how to handle the logistics of your ride and making that adjustment. We want to make sure we're helping you so that you don't run into any issues or confusion. We've had some situations where we haven't had questions asked and it's turned into kind of a mess. Where it gets a little more tricky, is if you have what I call a full division ride. So if you have a type A, but then you also have a type B1, B2, plus a type B LED. So we're talking the full gamut. Then that conversion, it changes things with that conversion. So say that you've completed day one in its entirety and B1 awards are already complete. You can't alter anything from day one. Day one's done. So you can't touch anything with that. So everybody's like, oh, but then what do I do? Because if I need to convert it to a B ride, then that is going to convert to the B2. Because B2 essentially never happened, right? Because of the weather or whatever, or the trails, B2 never started. So it never became it never came to fruition. So when you're processing your ride, when you're processing what was your formerly A ride, you can process that as a B2 instead. So it just takes the place of that in terms of how you process it electronically in RMS. I know that gets a little confusing, but the rides can't be merged. We had a situation with that, and it caused a huge mess. They took back riders' cards from day one that had already completed, had been awarded, took those cards back. They tried to merge them into the A ride that was getting converted to a B ride, and then tried to place them all together. You can't do that. The B1 is its own ride. It is a separate sanctioned ride. Those people entered that ride and that ride only. They don't get merged with a different ride. They always stay separate. So that's why they have to be processed separately. Processed because you already had a B1 ride. So, but we had that happen. We had a lot of people upset because then, of course, it shifted placings more than once because it changed placings initially for those B1 riders. Then it shifted placings again when we had to readjust after we pulled the B1 riders back out of that A ride. So we can't do that. That doesn't work. But ask questions, and much of that could have been solved with a phone call to me that didn't happen, or a phone call to Kathy, or at the time, Patsy. Any one of us could have assisted with making sure that that sanction got handled properly.
Or your rules interpreter.
Roger! We got our national rules interpreter right here. So we're going to talk about his little area of expertise. Your rules interpreters are very important people at your ride. And when you're considering a member to be your RI, don't look at this as a warm body position, because it is not. These folks have a very important role at your ride. They're the eyes and ears of your ride, and it is their job to reflect that. So when they do their rules interpreter report, they shouldn't just be checking boxes, signing their name, and sending off that report with a map, with the maps. That's not telling us much. I mean, sure, they're checking boxes, but there's that whole second page that has a whole bunch of lines for information. And a lot of times I'm getting those reports with the check boxes done. And then there's all these little things that say, if you indicate yes, please explain. It's not getting explained. So if there's more information about, like, if your RI is checking something yes, we need that information. So you need to expect more from your rules interpreters as well. We have a lot of delayed RI reports coming in. Like, some of them are really significantly delayed. These need to be submitted to NATRC within 72 hours of ride completion. So, we can't be sitting on this information. I do understand that a lot of rides are using this position as a way to keep some of, for lack of better words, some of our rider retirees involved in the sport. People that can no longer ride or are primarily volunteering. And it's a great way to do it, but please, please, please make sure that they are active and current with the sport. Because if you're pulling someone that's been away for 15 years, we have had so many changes in 15 years. And then you expect them to be your rules interpreter and make calls on stuff that they would have no clue about. They wouldn't know anything about LED. They wouldn't know anything about even some of the division changes that we've had. So it's really important that, if you are using someone that is, that has not been as active or whatnot, they need to be knowledgeable about this. The other piece is they need to have the physical ability to get to judging locations, PNRs, and other places that the RA duties might take them. They don't have to be, spry and, like a 10-year-old child. They're not going to be climbing trees, but they need to be able to reasonably be able to maybe walk a little bit of trail and, get to those sites to watch the judges, be able to get safely to PNR locations without a ton of accommodation, because we're all busy. We don't have a ton of help as it is. And depending on who's transporting your RI, you don't want to put a ton of extra duties on them. So just make sure that that person is able to get where they need to go and that they do actually have the ability to fulfill this role. Accident reports. We get a lot of questions about these and a lot of eye rolls too, especially when it comes to filling out the non-injury accident reports. But these protect you as well as NATRC. And the reason I always like to bring up this example, we actually had it was a clinic and a B ride, and she was a new gal that was not involved with NATRC prior. she hadn't even really gotten started with anything. She didn't even get past unloading her horse. It was, I mean, it just all started off really rough for her. She barely got the horse out of the trailer before there was the horse kind of exploded out of the trailer and busted up its face, and then it kind of hit her in the process. And I mean, it just snowballed from there. So, I mean, she didn't even get to check in, but because it was it was already part of our ride situation, they technically should have done an accident report. They didn't do an accident report. This lady was upset about her horse. She was upset about the situation. And then she left. And then, and even though she wasn't necessarily injured, she didn't require any kind of medical attention. After the fact, she was trying to claim she was injured and that her horse was severely injured and that we were responsible and that the ride was responsible. Only because I believe it was the ride manager was assisting her with the horse because the horse was being difficult. So she was trying to put that on NATRC and our management and our situation. And luckily, because we are very lucky to have Equisure, we were able to get out of that without a lawsuit. But had there been an accident report that simply checked that box of yes, refusing medical care and treatment, then there would have been no question, because that would have been received by Equisure, and that's all Equisure would have needed to shoot that down without any other argument. So while you could have someone that says, nope, I'm fine, I'm good. And okay, well, we're not going to bother with an accident report. So say that person came off, right? They got back on their horse, rode down the trail. And then 2 days later after the ride, they decided, oh, I feel a little sore. Maybe I did hurt myself. And then they decide to try to come back and say, yeah, I think I got hurt at your ride. And now I think I want to file something. Well, guess what? You're kind of in a bad position because you don't have any documentation that said that rider was not injured, that they refused medical care at the time. So you have to look at it more as a liability, a protection from liability, and just keeping everything off of your shoulders as a ride manager, because you'd be surprised at some of the stuff that I've encountered. Yes.
Jan Stewart, just a quick hi. So the moment they drive up on the premises, they are under our care.
Yeah, I mean, technically, so when it comes to the ride itself, it's of course once they're signed in with the secretary. But if we know that they're affiliated with our event and something happens on the premises, just fill out an accident report, okay? Because it's just, you're better off having it no matter what the
okay, just to clarify then, so that begins at the campground, not leading roads, forest roads, getting to the campground, or
yeah, yep,
they had an accident.
Nope.
Okay.
No, it's really only like once they're there and they're maybe unloading their horse. It's any type of, they're on the premises. They are affiliated with your ride, whether a volunteer or a competitor. So if they have any affiliation with the ride,
okay,
and you know that they're helping or riding or whatnot, then just go ahead and fill out an accident report.
Okay, and then until the time they drop off, right?
Yep. And then
okay.
once they're gone, they're gone.
Okay.
But oops.
Sarah,
I have hang on, let me finish this part real quick. So if they have an injury accident, I need to have that form within 24 hours, and I got to kick, because I personally kick that to Equisure right away. Because if there's any chance that there could be a claim due to an injury accident, Equisure needs to be able to act on that immediately. They're prepared to handle a claim if needed. But if it's not received in time, then we lose our protection. So we really have to stay on those timelines. Okay, question.
Yeah, this is Roger. A lot of, I don't want to say a lot of times, but occasionally somebody will come off their horse and they don't really like to bring it to people's attention that something went wrong. So in those cases, if it's observed and the rules interpreter finds out about it, or the ride manager, is that an instance where there should be a accident report, even though the person got on the ground, got back on their horse, and finished the ride? Should there be an accident report?
Yes. And anytime, like, if you have someone that's riding completely by themselves and they come off their horse and get back on, you might never know about it. But there's also then no witness, and it becomes a he said, she said. So it kind of removes some of that liability. If they come back and they tell you that they came off that horse and nobody saw it, then you have them fill out an accident report for themselves, and you still cover all those bases. If you have knowledge of it, you do one. That's
so if you're sitting around. So if you're sitting around at the ride meeting on Saturday night and somebody says, "Oh yeah, I saw the safety rider come off their horse,"
yep. You still
there should be an accident report.
Yep, absolutely.
A regular accident report, not just noting it in the rules interpreter report.
So if it's a non-injury accident, that is perfectly fine if those come with the rules interpreter report. Okay. It's only those injury accidents where they receive medical attention or are transported somewhere for medical attention, that need to come to me within 24 hours. Just because they are receiving formal medical care, and those can get escalated to a claim. So.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. So that kind of adjusts the timelines a little bit.
Sarah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Elaine Baker.
Hi, Elaine.
I'm a new ride manager, and this may seem really stupid.
No stupid questions here.
I know. Does this apply to horse accidents as well as human?
Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, stuff happens. Like, so we've had people get hurt coming out of a trailer. We've had volunteers get hurt on the ground, Well,
I guess my question was, if a horse got hurt, not the human, that's an accident report no matter what, right?
I would still fill one out. Yes.
Okay. All right. That's all I needed to know.
I mean, obviously, the medical care spot would apply to people only.
Right.
But you could write in if veterinary care was received on site.
Okay.
So here's the thing. It never, ever hurts to fill one out. Never. Like you'll never go wrong by doing that. So,
and you need to make sure you inform your rules interpreter so that they can put that in their reports also.
Yes. Exactly. They have they're on one of the things that rules interpreters do have to report on in their form is if there were any accidents at the ride. So it is important that your rules interpreter does know.
This is Julie Bills. I was at a ride and a lady hurt herself or burned herself with coffee and left the ride and went and got help. Is that something we would fill a report out for, even though it's not horse related? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little more of a gray area.
Okay. Just put it in there just in case.
I would say you probably don't need to, because that was a self-inflicted situation. Mm-hmm. in their what I call their personal space. I'm assuming, was it in the trailer or something?
Yeah.
So that's a little different. But if
they were outside, but I mean, I just didn't know, is that considered?
Yeah. Again, like I said, it doesn't hurt to fill one out. If you are at all concerned, it could come back on you in any way, shape, or form. Err on the side of caution and fill one out. You're always better off. that,
I have a question when you get it.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this has to do with filling out the Equisher application for the insurance. In section 2, because I had to pull up one that I filled out. In section 2, it says actual competition days.
Yes.
So you would include Friday, right? Or do you?
Technically, no. Technically, no. You only can include Saturday and Sunday.
Okay, so I wasn't sure about that because it technically starts on Friday
Yeah.
for your A riders. So okay, I just
So
wanted
now
to make sure that I had that right.
keep in mind that so you would cover the two days, but you're also covered for setup and takedown day.
Yeah.
In addition, so
I think there's
that
5
applied to
total.
the riders, that the people that were competing. Whenever it talks about setup, so that's why I was a little. I've always put just the 2 days, but I'm like, maybe I was doing that wrong.
Nope, not at all, because you're
Okay.
covered. You're covered
Okay.
the day before and the day after for sure. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's a good question. All right. Post-ride processing. This is everybody's favorite topic because we all love paperwork, right? After the completion of your ride, you will receive a very helpful email from our awesome data processing guru, Ruth, that provides very detailed instructions on post-ride actions that need to happen. So everything that you need to do after your ride, which includes the time frames, where everything needs to go, who it needs to be sent to, is included in that post-ride email from Ruth. Please, please, please read it. Because even though we're sending those, somehow stuff is still going to the wrong places and not making it in the time frames. So we do this to try to help you navigate this as best as you can, because we know that the post-ride stuff is not so much fun. And we know, like, I'm a manager too. When I get done with the ride, I'm just like, whew, all right, whew, okay. I'm ready for a break. We get that, understand. But wrap up your ride first. There's still stuff that has to happen. So please, please, please read that post-ride email from Ruth. Look at those timelines, write them down somewhere, print out her email, whatever you need to do to make sure that you're on top of that. Timely input of ride results into RMS and subsequent mailing of the physical scorecards to Ruth is critical. We've had a lot of significant delays this season already. We had one ride where we didn't get the stuff for a month. That's that doesn't work. We have to be able to do our jobs to stay on top of it, because it puts us behind in our work too. But the more delays, and it's not just us, because guess what? Riders. I can't tell you how many emails and messages I get from riders. When are the ride results going to be posted? When are the ride results going to be posted? When are the ride results going to be posted? I get a lot of those, and people get really upset when when ride results aren't posted within usually within 2 weeks. 2 weeks is a pretty reasonable time if ride management is sticking to the timelines for processing their ride. Sometimes we run into some hiccups if there's some issues with the scorecards on the back end, but otherwise we can usually process that ride pretty darn fast and have those results posted. But if we aren't getting the information and we're not getting those cards, then we can't do our job, and we can't deliver then to the competitors that are waiting for that. So that's why I had to put my little fun graphics in here, because, I'm the complaint department 99% of the time. But the delays cost all of us. And those end of season rides. So if you are like a late October or one of the November rides, you are even more under the gun to get stuff done fast, because if we are delayed there, it pushes back our year-end audits. That then subsequently, I can't process the information I need to in order to produce the regional and national awards. You probably noticed how delayed they were this year getting posted. We were waiting on, I think, 2 rides at least for data. So it puts us all behind. So please keep that in mind. It affects a lot more people than just your ride if you're delayed. And unfortunately, the mail service isn't what it used to be. So for those of you that have had ride packets not make it, or they've been significantly delayed, I've had some that have decided to loop between Omaha and California and back. I can't tell you how many times before they finally landed where they were supposed to. Don't know why, but they do. So please, before you send those completed scorecards to Ruth, if you have the ability, please scan copies and just have those electronically, just in case those scorecards don't make it. We kind of had a scare with another ride with those cards. We thought they weren't going to make it. So they turned up, but we have had problems. We also recommend using Priority versus Priority Express because A, it's cheaper. It's basically, it'll get there about the same time. And it's got the same security, tracking, and all of that. But like I said, it's cheaper. And please do not send any packages with signature required to either myself or to Ruth, whether it be an envelope or a box or anything like that. Between the two of us, we're not always available for a signature. And that gets really, especially like Ruth, where she's maybe waiting on a packet, but then she has to go somewhere and then she can't get that delivery because she's not there and they need a signature. So please don't send anything that requires a signature because that gets really frustrating. Just send it with tracking and that will be sufficient. And then please make sure to mail all unused scorecards to me right away after your ride, because we need to make sure we get those cards back into circulation. And then it's also important because this is how I manage our inventory and our reorder process. Scorecards aren't cheap. And if I don't know what the accurate counts are for scorecards or a reasonable count, then it's really hard for me to stay on top of that. But this also ensures that there are not old versions of scorecards floating around out there that could end up back into use. Old scorecards are not okay for use under any circumstances. You cannot use old scorecards at your rides ever, because you just can't. They're no longer legitimate. So please make sure you're returning all unused scorecards right after your ride so that I can put those right back into circulation, use them for other rides, and keep that inventory current. Promotion. Promote your ride. And guess what? You can do this quite easily without having to do it yourself. You can request an e-news blast when your ride's open for registration in RMS by reaching out to our lovely Kim Murphy, who does an amazing job with our e-news. I have her email right there. So for you managers that want to be able to do an e-blast, and even if you don't want to you could do more than one. Nothing says you only have to do this when you open your ride for registration. You can also do it for other things. And John sent me this lovely photo of his daughter because promotion, right? We're all cheerleaders for NATRC. I thought that was cool. Thanks, John, for sharing that. The next thing, Trailmeister. Don't forget to utilize our national partner, the Trailmeister. So if you go to their, on their menu bar and go to the drop down in events, you can enter all of your ride information. And then that offers you even more exposure. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of traffic on the Trailmeister site. So you could pull some new riders from this source. So it's just a good place to get out there. And this is one of our national partners. So please utilize that service. It's a really great deal. NATRC memberships. We do get quite a few non-members riding. And sometimes that's by design. Maybe they're like, I only get to ride one ride this year. It's not really worth it for me to join, which, you could still encourage them and say, well, How about you join at the fan level? How about you join at the supporting level? It's just a matter of keeping people engaged and staying a part of the sport, even if they're not necessarily competing, heavily. It's a good way to keep them involved. We obviously have our free memberships that we're still offering, so promote that. If you have brand new riders that are non-members that have never been a member for NATRC, have them join. Have them sign up. Do you prefer that if you have them join online, even if they're at the ride site right then and there, have them create an account and sign up for a membership? It's much. We're trying to get away from paper forms altogether. So this helps us if ride management is on that same page and promoting that as well. But this also gets them active in our website and system, and it's a lot easier to process that membership. So if you can encourage the online renewals or joins, we appreciate that. Promote other opportunities at your rides, such as upcoming clinics or rides in your region to encourage people to get out and ride with us more. It also helps your fellow ride managers. We're all in this together. We all need the riders, and even, support other regions. If there's a ride coming up that's just across the border in the next region, promote that ride. We're all working together. Top Trail, remind your riders that this is a great opportunity to not only get credit for their training and conditioning miles, but it's also rewarded. So they get mileage milestone awards through Top Trail, but then NATRC, we offer a top 10 national high mileage award for the riders, and then also top 3 for each region. And keep in mind those competitive miles also count towards the year-end mileage. So you can promote that like at a ride briefing or whatever, encourage people to get signed up for that. It's a great program. And then each region should have received a new riding warehouse banner. I know Region 6's was pretty in rough shape, so we had a new one. But make sure to display this banner like in your briefing or meeting area at your ride to promote our national sponsor.
Question about that, Sarah?
Yes. Yeah.
Where would we find that banner? I have a first ride in the region. I haven't seen it yet.
I'm John. You might be able to
Region
answer
3?
where Region 3's got sent to.
I don't remember. Oh, Region 3 went to Bill Wingo.
Okay.
Okay, Bill will bring it. Thank you.
Yep. And you might want to check with him, Amelia, just to make sure that he'll bring it.
Yeah, we sent new ones out to every region.
Yeah. All right. Housekeeping, bringing out the domestic in all of us, our favorite thing, right? So most of you may already know this, but if you don't, our rider fees increased in 2024. So I have them listed here. There was no change to the drug fees. And then all of our forms were also updated to reflect that. So RMS, and then like our ride budget calculator. And keep in mind that ride budget calculator, especially for your newer ride managers, is a really handy tool. So if you're trying to sit down and figure out, okay, how am I going to make this happen? What do I need to do in order to financially make this ride a go? The ride budget calculator can be a really helpful tool for that. So don't forget about that. It's on our website under the management tab. And then new for 2024, our leisure division is eligible for national awards, which you may already know this, but if you don't, this is a good thing to promote, especially when you're doing your LED ride briefings. Really promote this because this, this affords these LED competitors with even more opportunities. And because of the national award format, this allows them to compete in other regions aside from their own and accrue points towards a national placing. So encourage them to get out and ride. Go check out other regions. I mean, why not? It's a pretty awesome deal. But have them, set some goals and, ride in other areas and regions that they may not have experienced because they maybe didn't have the drive or a reason to necessarily. And LED might give them that motivation. LED National Awards might give them that motivation to take that jump.
Sarah, I have a question.
Yes.
On the
Can you go back to the page?
Maybe.
I know it's like on the I was looking.
There you go.
Okay, so on the drug fees,
Yes.
why do we have to pay for, so a leisure rider rides 2 days, say they ride 2 days, we have to pay $5 for each day a B rider rides.
Yes. Yep.
Why?
Because every NATRC ride is subject to drug testing, and every NATRC competitor is subject to drug testing. So the fee is collected.
Okay.
And that has been, you're not alone in that question, Cheryl. And it's been discussed because we do want to figure out a way to actually be testing LED rides. And we need to be, but the hardest part is having someone qualified at the ride, at LED rides, to do the blood draw. So yeah, we run into that, but that's a valid question. And I understand, why you ask it. You're not the only one.
Well, actually, I have that question too. I have a leisure ride in a clinic, and what do I need to do? It's not in the ride management manual.
As far as
drug testing.
So basically, you don't need to even worry about it. You would be notified so Kim Murphy is our national drug testing chair. You would be notified by her that your ride's being tested, and then she would send you the kit for it. So whoever you had there to do the blood draws, they would use that kit and do all the collection.
But is that somebody I need to find, and what is the requirement? Because it's not.
No, you don't. There's nothing that you need to do with it. Because if your ride is selected, everything that you need, the information that you need, and the instructions would come in that kit from Kim. So how to mail it, how to what's the best procedure for mailing the samples, and all of that stuff is included in there.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so there's nothing you need to worry about up front or anything.
Okay.
Who is qualified to take those drug pulls? Do we need to have a vet arranged in order to do that, or can somebody who's comfortable taking blood draws perform the drug test?
I mean, they should be someone who is at least certified in some regard, maybe like a vet tech, either a veterinarian or a vet tech. They should be certified in.
So if at an LED only ride, we get selected for a drug test, we need to make sure that we have somebody there that can do it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And is there a certain amount in advance that we are let known that a drug test will be required? Is there a certain, are we notified at least 2 weeks prior so we can make sure we can get somebody arranged if nobody at the ride
usually
is qualified?
Usually the kits are, well, I mean, each of you might have different experience, but usually the kits are in your hands about 2 weeks before the ride, unless there's a hiccup.
Okay.
Yes,
So
usually
at minimum we should have 2 weeks to find somebody to come.
Yeah, usually you would. And honestly, at this point, Alex, because we haven't quite figured out an appropriate way to do that kind of infrastructure, it's really hard to put that on a ride manager and say, yeah, we know you don't have a vet at your ride because it's an LED only ride. So good luck. Yep. We're going to drug test you. You're going to figure it out. Because we don't have the infrastructure for that, we just haven't really enforced it. And that's why LED only rides have not had kits sent to them yet. But it's definitely something that is, it has been discussed, and it will, given the fact that LED has grown so much, it is something that we need to continue to discuss and we need to figure out. And that's just the reality of it. So
could you touch on maybe the selection process and how a ride is decided whether we're testing at it?
I can't, because that is completely up to Kim Murphy. I don't even know which rides are going to get tested. It is a completely anonymous, and
are there so many rides a year that are tested?
Yeah, so at least one ride in each region is tested per year. but then there could be an additional. So, yeah. But
Okay. Thank you.
I don't even know, I don't even know which rides are going to get tested. And that's by design. We want to make sure that it is, as random as it can possibly be.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So one of the big questions that came up last year, I guess it was last fall, was the requirement is if NATRC had requirements for Coggins and health certificates. NATRC as an organization does not have any requirements for health documents. However, if you look nationwide, it is a standard equestrian competition practice to have at least a negative Coggins. But as an organization and as a sanctioning body, we do not require it. And that's because, guess what? We cover the entire nation and protocols are different all over the place. So this is going to be completely the responsibility of the ride manager to understand and know any of the federal, state, local, or facility requirements. You could be hosting your ride at a facility that has even higher expectations for health certification than the state park down the road. So just make sure that you know exactly what your competitors are going to need to satisfy any local requirements, and then make sure that you're asking for that well in advance of your ride. Don't just be like, oh, a week before your ride, oh crap, I just realized you're going to need XYZ, because that's going to throw a lot of your competitors for a loop. So make sure you're researching this ahead of time and you understand all of those requirements prior. And then also be paying attention as you're getting closer to your ride to see if there are any specific equine health alerts that may have come up. We've had a lot of different diseases that have circulated across our country for equines. And so we've had to, certain rides have either had to cancel or change their dates because of that, or they've just had to take extra precautions at their ride. So just be knowledgeable and aware of that. But NATRC as an organization does not have a stipulation for that. But we do expect you as ride managers to be on top of the needs for your area and your ride. All current forms for management can be found on our website, and you do have to be logged in to your account in order to see the admin page that contains all of the management materials. If you're not logged in, that admin option will not appear in that drop-down menu for you. So make sure you're logged in. I get that question a lot. Like, I can't see I don't even know where to find the forms. And the first question is, are you logged in to your account? And oh no, okay, you gotta be logged into your account. And then you'll be able to see all of that. We have had a couple where for some reason they still couldn't see it. And it was a really bizarre thing that we actually had to have, our developer fix, but those are pretty rare. So you should be able to see it if you're logged in. And I can't tell you how many times I've had managers or secretaries say, email me this form, email me this document. You have to understand how many rides I support across the nation. And when I have all of these different people asking me for all of these forms, that takes up a lot of my time. I mean, just yesterday, I was telling John, I had 45 emails. 45 emails. Well, actually, I guess that's from Tuesday. I had a track meet. I was coaching a track meet on Tuesday. And so I wasn't in my email all day. I had 45 emails. 45. So while it may not seem like a big deal to you to ask me for one single form, in the grand scheme of things for me, it adds up in my time. All of these forms, every form you will ever need for ride management is under that admin tab on the website. Everything you could possibly need. All current, all right there. I get so many emails about, hey, can you email me the current judges list? Guess what? That is right there under the admin tab, management. You will find the current judges list. And we do keep that current. So please make sure that if you need a form or you need something, please, please, please go there first. if you can't find something or if you're struggling with something, then ask. That's fine. I'm not saying don't reach out to me, but if you haven't even attempted to go find that form or get that form off the website, I'm going to direct you there. I'm just telling you now, I will direct you to the website. So not trying to be rude, not trying to be mean, but I will ask you to do a little of your own legwork there when it comes to the forms. All right. Any questions? And John, actually this photo came from Chris originally, and then John, and then I got it. But it was just an awesome example of, the Spring and Dixie ride. So kudos to Patty and Connie on that. They displayed an NATRC banner as well as the new Riding Warehouse banner. So it's just an example of how they've displayed theirs. If you have a pavilion or whatever, you can hang them up in there. Just mainly, it's better if you have it in your briefing area or where you know that a lot of riders will be able to see it, a high visibility area. So what questions do I have? Right on the hour mark, which is perfect, but I will sit here and answer as many questions as you guys have tonight because I'm here for you and I want happy and knowledgeable ride managers. Jansen.
Well, I have a question. I've got something like almost 30 first-time competitors for this leisure ride that I'm doing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so amazing. No one could figure out RMS. We gave up. We said, email us your paper form, and my ride secretary and I entered them.
Yeah.
So just saying, nobody who hadn't done it before, it was just brain damage trying to figure out what they were finding was a problem. And actually, one of the things that happened, and this is why we said email us those registration forms, was because they thought when they signed up for the free membership on the website that they were registered for the ride.
Oh.
And when we hit, so all of a sudden, when we realized that people were telling us that they were registered and we didn't have them in RMS, we're like, shit. And all of a sudden we were full. We were full. So that was a real problem. And I don't know if anybody else is having that, but it was kind of scary.
I don't think there's anybody in this group that would argue that RMS is a challenge for a lot of people, and not just new people, not just new riders. We're hoping to eventually get away from that and just have everything under one roof so that we don't have those complications. So I'm sorry that you guys had to struggle with that and that your competitors had to struggle with that. But it is something we are working on. Our tech committee is trying to take care of that and resolve that situation so we don't have to deal with it anymore. Do you have access to RMS instructions?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was people who thought they were self-serving, right? They went in,
sure.
They'd heard about it. They saw the marketing. They went in and, we didn't know they were out there until they heard from their friend who got the email about, oh, congratulations, you're registered.
It might be something, so because you have so many of them, it might be something that it wouldn't hurt if you printed out those RMS instructions for them and gave them to them at the ride. Because if they choose to enter then other rides
in the future, that's a good idea. That's a good thing to include it with our package.
Empower them to be able to enter on their own.
That's a good idea.
Not going to the next ride and feeling maybe so, especially because you're doing a clinic. Maybe it could be handed out as a part of the clinic or something. So just it might be helpful to have that.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll add that. That's a good idea. So
do we have a walkthrough video? Maybe Sarah could that help? Making a walkthrough video, just hey, here's how you register.
We probably I trying to remember if we ever had one of those, but no, I think that would be helpful. Alex, do you want to make one?
I can add that to work on.
I know you have poor Alex. He just He's doing so much for us already. So Alex is our tech chair, which you probably have seen if you get the e-news. So, and he's awesome and amazing. And yeah, I'm trying not to pile too much on him. It's hard not to because he's awesome. But that would be a great idea though, Alex, is a video. So we can, I don't even know how to make that work. I wouldn't even. Is it a webinar?
I'm sure Mary Alice has some rides to register for, so I can just do it when I'm going through that.
Okay. That works. What other questions do I have? Any other questions? We covered a lot of ground tonight, so this is recorded, so you'll be able to go back and view again if you would like. And again, you can share this with other folks. You all know where to find me. Some people even know where I live.
So one other question is, and I won't spend time asking about more details online, but has anyone ever had a leisure ride with two judges? And if so, and who is that? And could I, connect with you?
We've had several in Region 4, actually. Patty.
Who's that?
Patty. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember which we had at least.
Yeah. We did. We had a ride. Patty Lampley, she was the ride secretary.
Yes.
And we had two judges. And we had kind of the same situation that you had, that we did two judges because we were getting so many people that wanted to sign up for it, that we were a little concerned about just having one judge. So what we did is we had a primary judge, and then we had the backup judge as the ride as the judge secretary in case we needed the elevator. And it turned out that we didn't actually need to do it, but we did actually end up using both of them. And it was because we had bad weather. And so we had, not everybody showed up that actually signed up for it. And so unfortunately, so yes, we did do that.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. I'm getting I have a Zoom call with my judges and my trail master.
And what they did is that they would, every other obstacle they would judge. So they kind of like leapfrogged each other, so that they were all judging. That's how they did one day. I don't know if Alice Perryman, she was one of the judges, so she could tell more about it.
One thing
I'm here. I was just muted. I don't know if you can hear me. It's Patty. Oh. Can you hear Patty? But yes, we've done that two judges a couple of times, and it worked out really well. The judges worked so well together, and we had actually, I think, not on Molly's ride, but on one of the other rides, we had to add it kind of last minute to make it work, and it worked out great. I think it was actually Alice's ride.
I think it was Alana's ride in the grasslands that there was so many leisure that I think Debbie Starr was already judging, and then Betsy got pulled in at the last minute. And they had enough of both classes.
Yeah, that was Alice's last year.
But they had enough of both classes that they took turns judging experienced or adult. But like at Molly's ride, we just leapfrogged because there were only like 3 experienced and everybody else was adult. And so it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have done much good to judge separately.
But leapfrogging is okay. I mean, that would work at our ride. And so that's what our judges had suggested. So,
and Amelia, you've got 2 very experienced judges that, I mean, you're going to be in good hands. So they're going to, you have a dynamic duo, and they will help.
I hope so.
Yeah, you'll be fine. The 2 judges that you have, you're going to be just fine, because they will make sure they know what they're doing, and they'll help you figure out the best plan. So don't worry about that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
One thing we found in Region 6 is that you can get more capacity out of your judge by having 2 secretaries as well. just because then you can have one that is your quick note scribing secretary, and then another one that's your long handwriting secretary. So if you're kind of in that intermediate range where we found about once you get beyond 15 people, it starts to get a little bit tougher to have just one secretary, but that'll increase your capacity quite a bit without having to move on to that second judge quite yet.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, that's a lovely. Hi, that's a lovely banner for NATRC. Where did we get those?
I'm guessing that one was made by Region 5.
Okay.
But I mean, you can have those if you want to have a banner like that made. You certainly can for display to promote your rides.
Okay, so, thank you.
Just like all you have to do is email for a request to use the logo since it is trademarked, and then we'll work with you on that. But we definitely, if you want to create a NATRC banner like that and post it, we'd love that. So, yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions?
I'm waving goodbye.
All right. Got that.
Very good.
Well, I appreciate all of you guys joining me tonight, and I look forward to many successful rides with you folks in the future. So, and don't hesitate to email me or text me or whatever with questions, because I don't care if you're at a ride or whatever. I'm happy to answer questions, and I'm not always 100% available, but I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I'll try to, if I know a ride's happening, I do try to kind of pay attention and notice if I'm getting a phone call or a text from someone. So, don't hesitate to reach out.